Welcome to Selex Enterprises. James Harrison here. Today I'm going to talk a little about price objection. Price objections are one of the main processes in selling, so discussion, tips and strategies around this point is quite critical. So I'll talk about a few items here. Number one, make sure it's not really a timing issue. The price objection you're hearing now might be related to real-time cash or budget availability, not the value of the product or service. If you're selling at the end of the buyer's financial cycle, for example, the prospect may have most of their dollars already committed elsewhere. If you can get creative with financing options or push the deal forward enough so that it can be funded out of a different quarter, financial year or budget, you may eliminate the pricing issue without directly addressing it. Nobody likes to push close dates out for obvious reasons, but it might be worth it if you can preserve the full price of the offer. The second point would be stand up for your product's value against price objections. Most buyers are going to object to your price by default. They have nothing to lose when they do this. They know that you want the sale, and one price objection isn't going to kill anything. Most sellers immediately start negotiating to lower price at this point, which is a clear sign to a buyer that not only was your first quote inflated, but your second quote probably has some room to further be reduced for them as well. If you stand up for your pricing and product's value, then you're sending a clear message to the buyer that the original price quoted is real. Sellers are often quite surprised when they find this simple tactic gets their first quote accepted without further negotiation. The third point I would make would be about make sure they're not just stalling. Objections to price generally have a larger meaning. It can sometimes mean the prospect isn't focused enough, sometimes just at that moment or on that day, to think through an approval decision. By asking the seller for a better price, sellers can delay their decision to another day and perhaps get a lower price in the process. If you feel the buyer might be stalling, you should really appeal to the previously agreed timeline. Go back to the basics, and the need for the product or service. Remind the buyer that not you, but that they need to make a decision quickly to take advantage of the situation, the pain or need or objective, what you started selling against to begin with in the first place. And the fourth point really would be to do the maths on the return of investment for them. Price is one thing, but return on investment is another. Prices right now, unfortunately, in most cases, the buyer has to make a commitment and make a payment. But if they've effectively done the value translation, or better yet, you've helped them do the math, they know that a small investment now will pay big dividends down the road in higher revenue, lower costs, or a combination of those kind of benefits. Buyers too often get focused on upfront costs at the expense of the long-term value. Make sure, especially when it comes to negotiating terms, that the buyer fully understands the value of the long-term impact of an investment with you. Fifth point would be finding the real objection. Sometimes price objections are a pure stall tactic. Other times they're used in lieu of something else that's keeping the deal from happening. Price in this case is the easier way to stall a deal. Easier than admitting the organisation may not be quite ready to implement your solution, or they have to speak to their husband or wife. It's just an easier way. Easier than having to explain to sort of their boss, wife or other, why it's so expensive versus the benefits of, what it will actually provide. If you're fully invested, not only in the sale but in the implementation for the buyer, which is what you should be part of how you're selling in the first place anyway. You should have enough insider knowledge to get out what the other objections may actually be behind the price questions anyway. Last point would be, walk away. I mean, it's a tactic against the price objection, which will, bring things out pretty clearly. If you've qualified the opportunity, if you know what the prospect sort of needs what you're selling, and is convinced that your company can provide the best solution, then walking away isn't going to lose you the deal. It's going to call their bluff, and if it doesn't, if they don't have a sense of urgency to solve a problem, or capture an opportunity, then your deal may not have been well qualified to begin with, and the need for purchasing or what have you to close a deal was not. The deal would have been too difficult to put together. You're trying to convince someone to buy something they don't want. So look, walking away is more of an extreme tactic, but it works wonders. So thanks.